Hello, hi, my name is Sudesh Anand, and welcome to AWS Cloud Engineering Master Training and Placement Assistant Program. I'm doing a short video over here with Mr. Maya over here, and we're going to discuss about the scope of AWS Cloud Engineering career because a lot of jobs coming up. We want to introduce ourselves, and we want to see how we can help you transition into this job. So I'm going to quickly talk about myself and our company, and then we'll go forward from here. This is a very short session. My name is Sudesh Subramaniam. I'm founder and CEO of Leadtecno Staffing and Training Services. We founded this company in 2016, and our services are consulting, staffing, and training. We are operating in Canada and US. We have many vendors we work with. We work with both IT and non-IT jobs. And the sectors where we work are banking, telecom, insurance, and healthcare. And I work with many other partners in US, Canada, and India. All right. So these are our staffing partners, Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech, Randstad, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, and many more. So we have a lot of partners to go. So before I quickly start forward, I would ask Mr. Amir to introduce himself, and we'll take it from there. So, Mr. Amir, if you're ready, could you please go ahead and share your screen? Thank you.
Hey, Satish, thank you so much
How are you doing today,
for
Amir?
introduce me. So, hello everyone. My name is Amir Vaidya, basically. So, I'm having more than 16 years of experience in the industry. So, basically, I'm the cybersecurity guy. So, my daily job is to secure the different cloud products. So, when I say the cloud product, it means it's an AWS, Amazon Web Services, then the Microsoft Azure. Then for the Google, it's in GCP. And in China, there is a famous that's an Alibaba and the Oracle as well. So my daily job role is to implement a different security and also design, manage, and planning. So when I say the design, manage, and planning, it means what about the different cloud product. So I'm a certified person. So I completed more than 6 certifications in the AWS. Okay, I'll also talk about more on the certification soon. Then I also completed the Azure certification. So I have my architecture and the administration certifications. I also completed some non-technical, that's an ITL V4 for the customer development. Then I'm also Red Hat certified. I'm also completed Microsoft certifieds and the Cisco as well. So, so the training for me is my passion, and I'm following the passion from last 7, 8 years. So basically, I'm also a freelancer trainer. So I till now I completed more than 100 plus. I don't exactly remember the number, but I'll say that more than 100 plus batches of the AWS and Azure as well. I also love so I'm also I can say I don't want to see the ideal. So my photography, my biking passions and training, these are my some passions. So that's just a quick information about me. Thank you, Sudhish, for invite me on the sessions. Over to you.
Thank you, Amaya. Thank you so much for giving us a quick introduction about yourself. So, guys, like I said, Amaya is a very trained consultant, AWS Cloud Platform, and also he's got an industry experience of over 15 years over here. And so, what we do over here is, as a company, we work as a staffing services. We are aware where the jobs are in demand and where the supply is less. Okay, it's very important for somebody to move into a tech career today. You really want to understand where the jobs are available, where the demand is high, where the supply is less. So, coming to the same topic, today, most of the organizations are moving towards cloud space, and there's a lot of migration activities happening. If you're looking for a career in IT, then going in as an AWS cloud engineer is a very good fit for you, both in US and in Canada job market. The average wait time for you to secure a job is somewhere between 0 to 3 months is what it is. So going ahead with the agenda, so we're going to talk about the AWS cloud engineering career scope, And I'm going to talk about how much you can make, and then we're going to talk about how you can move into this career. And Mr. Amaya will take us with the curriculum, and he will talk about what certifications are required and how are we going to coach you and help you. And then we're going to talk about our placement assistance. And I hope you guys are with us. It's a very short session, but we want to make sure that we bring in all the information for you. And this program is 0 to 100, and this program is more than enough for you to get a hands-on experience on how to perform the job in a real-time scenario. So we're not only preparing you for the certification, but we're also preparing you for the job. Okay, guys. So let's move on to the next slide over here. So I do want to talk about the AWS Cloud Engineering career scope over here. The scope of career in AWS Cloud Engineering US and Canada is vast and is continuously growing, because almost the growth rate today is up to 32% based on the recent reports. Okay, is one of the fastest growing tech sectors in both in US and Canada, and AWS is the leading market, has a leading market share right now. And because AWS is very highly scalable and cost efficient cloud platform, so AWS continues to be a leader in cloud services. And you starting your career in this is very important, because we are bringing in a career which is a comprehensive solution for you. You don't need another training, because you can become as an admin, you can become an architect over here, you can become a cloud engineer, you can do an analyst job. There's so much into this platform. You have to understand having a specialization is very important for you to move to career into IT sector, and AWS Cloud Engineering will give you that specialization. And that's why we're bringing this good news to you. The sectors where we see a lot of AWS migrations and cloud activities which are happening right now is on the finance sector, healthcare, government, retail, e-commerce, gaming, education sector. Okay, more than they're heavily reliant on AWS platforms, and they have almost 80% of clients in AWS in Fortune 500 companies. When it comes to the job growth in US, we're looking at a growth rate of 23% annually. So, that's a phenomenal growth we are seeing all the way till 2030. If you're looking to make a career in cloud, then this is the time for you. Okay. In Canada, we are looking at a growth rate of 22%, a cloud adoption. So AWS is today, all the organizations, even infrastructure tools, everything is going towards cloud. Being a specialization in a cloud sector, will help you get a bag of job pretty fast. Okay, and talking about how much money you can make, which is very important. Um, if you're from United States, then you're looking at an entry level career starting at 90,000. Depends on the vendor, depends on the client. You're looking at 120,000 max. At a mid level, you're looking at 120 to 150,000, and a senior level architect 150,000 to 200,000. In Canada, you're looking at an entry level of 70,000 to 90,000, and a mid level career of 90,000 to $120,000. And then a senior level architect, you're looking at 120 to 160,000. So your salary depends on your experience, your certification, and location. So I'm an expert, because I'm going to have a staffing company in US and Canada. I'm an expert where I will help you and guide you how to transition into the job market. Well, I don't want to steal the thunder, so I would like Mr. Amaya to share about how a person from zero IT skills can become a cloud engineer in AWS. And Amaya, could you please share us, teach us what will it take for us to become a consultant, a step into this career, and show us what certification it takes, and what kind of tools are we learning, and how long is this training program we're talking about? And we would love to hear from you. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Satish. So folks, the training program is almost 60 to 70 hours. Okay, again, depend upon this your speed, learning speed, and it's completely practical oriented. So when we start, I hardly use maximum 10% of PPT, and rest of that 90% is completely practical. Remember this tool which they said about in Google, Azure, GCP. These are the product. We are here to learn the different product now. So talk about the AWS. Now, why AWS is more familiar or more famous? The reason is that AWS is the first company who introduced such a service into the market. They are the giant, they are the market leader. And AWS is a company who start directly, or I can say they born directly into the cloud. Other companies like in Azure, they adopt the technology, right? So they are earlier they are on the on-premises and now they are moving to the cloud. So that's the reason if you are from any stream, whether you are from the architecture, whether you are from the database, or let's say you are from the data science, data analytics, or data engineering, or any developer or QA, you must aware about at least one cloud. Now, the reason is that everyone is now moving to the on premises to the AWS cloud because of their scalability, because of the cost, because this cloud, it means what? That's an capex turned into the opex. Okay, so here you save a lot of cost. So in currently in 60, 70 hours, right, I'm going to explain you about the different concepts about the AWS. So if you see on my screen, so I'm going to explain you that what exactly I'm going to cover in this next 60, 70 hours. So now you might thought that, okay, I'm from the non-technical background. I even don't know what exactly the cloud, what exactly it means seeing. So don't worry about it. We start everything from the scratch. So if you're from the non-tech background, even though you don't know what exactly the server networking and in the cloud, we will explain you about what exactly the cloud concept, why exactly it is important. Because once the why is clear, then rest of journey is very, very easy. So the in first few session, I'm going to clear about the why exactly the cloud or why exactly the AWS. So here you can see these are the entire fundamentals that I'm going to cover about what exactly the AWS, or before that, I'll also explain you what exactly the cloud, what exactly the different type of cloud. Then I'll also explain you why we need to use the cloud, how exactly the company costs. I'll also explain you some use cases that earlier the entire company was on the on-premises, and once they move to the cloud, what benefits they will get. So now I'll start, and after that I'll start with exactly the what exactly the AWS, how exactly the infrastructure, because here you can see the infrastructure is very, very important, because you are storing 110 100 terabyte of data on a AWS or any product, but whether that the product is compliant or not, right, whether they are matching with your use cases. So I'll also explain about what exactly the regions, availability zones in AWS, how exactly the network is, so that I'll also explain. So AWS also, they have their own best practices. It's called AWS Well Architecture Framework. I'll also explain there are 6 type of well architecture framework, how exactly we can, or I can say it's a best practice about the AWS. So first few days we'll explain about the fundamentals. So once we explain the fundamentals, the next part about the security. So what about the authentication and authorization? Because this tool or this product is, it's not made only for the 1 or 2 person. There are many people who's accessing your product. For an example, your application itself, they are accessing your product. Then the development people, then the QA people, and your these other staff, they also required access of your AWS. So how exactly you can create authentication and authorization, so that I'm going to explain in the account security, where you will understand that how exactly you can create user groups, roles, policies, how exactly we can create those security policies, that I'm going to explain in the security topic only. And after that, once we finish that, the next topic would be the networking part. For an example, where to exactly you launch your different virtualizations, container or some serverless services. For that, you need to create some separate virtual private network, right? So for that, the next service that I'm going to explain about the VPC, that's the virtual private net cloud. So here in this VPC, you will understand about how to create those VPC, then how exactly we can define our resources in that VPC, how exactly we can create a security. So that exactly I'm going to explain in the networking part. And once this is a part one, and then part two will be, explained later. So once the networking part one is finished, I'll also explain you about the compute or virtualization. So in any organizations, if you go, they are using the virtualizations. For an example, you might have the VMware and other tools you are using in your environment. But now when you move to the cloud, okay, the main benefit is that the capex turn into the opex. And the another thing is that you need a lot of virtual machine for your testing purpose, for your development purpose, or let's say for your production purpose, or even though for the different projects. So in compute, you will learn how exactly you can launch the virtualization. That's in how exactly you can launch Windows, Linux, Mac, Debian operating system, and some other operating system. How exactly you can manage this, what exactly type of security will provide once you launch your virtualization in a compute. So that's the four part. And after that, once we complete that, we'll go to the next. That's the about the storage, right? Fundamental of storage. Obviously, you need to store your compliance data. You also need to store your audit log. You also need to store a metadata or might be any organization detail. So here AWS provide you the unlimited space where you can store whether it is 1 GB of data or the 100 terabyte of data. It's completely flexible. And the best part is that you don't need to manage any other things. Whatever you upload the files and folders, that you just need to pay it. That's the reason it's a completely pay as you go services. Whatever you consume, you just need to pay to the AWS. That's it. So we'll also understand about what exactly the storage here, what exactly the S3, that's nothing but a simple storage services, how exactly you can store the file, how exactly you can create a different rule to save the cost again. And we'll also understand how exactly we can create a DR. I'll also explain you about the other storage in AWS, like what exactly the elastic block storage, what exactly the elastic file storage. So that also I'm going to explain in the storage fundamental. And after that, once we create it, I'll also explain you about what kind of the database which AWS has. So we understand what exactly the authentication, storage, then we also understand virtualization, networking, and now the next one is the database. So in database, commonly we understand about relational database services, that's an RDS, and it means the MySQL. And we also understand about the next one, that's a NoSQL. It means what? That's the non-relational database. I'm also explaining you, we'll also understand. So these services is specifically a platform as a services. It means where you don't need to manage any underlying hardware. If I ask you to create a database, then you need to create a server, you need to install the operating system, you also need to install the application, patching, update. So here in AWS, you don't need to manage anything, that is completely taken care by the AWS only. So that's the database services. Also, we are also going to understand how exactly we can migrate the database. That's the database migration services. For an example, you have a NoSQL data or MySQL data on the on-premises, how exactly you can migrate all your data to the AWS cloud. That is in heterogeneous database migrations and also the homogeneous migration that I'm going to cover in the database services. And once we complete that, okay, so obviously you need to monitoring tool, right? So you launch a different type of resources in AWS. You also require some service who monitor, who tell the service that something is happening and or let's suppose there is a resources which is you are not using. Because as I said that this isn't completely pay as you go services. So the cost is very important. How exactly you can cause the cost, because as in cloud engineer or the solution architect, you are the one who prove the ROI, that's in return on investment to the to your company or your client. So that's the reason monitoring is very important. So in monitoring, AWS provide a AWS CloudWatch services. So in this CloudWatch services, we'll understand how exactly we can create alarms and how exactly we can also monitor the AWS as well. For an example, user trackings, API call, everything that we'll understand in the monitoring and scaling as well. Now, when I say part of scaling, it means what? There is a two thing. One is a load balancer and another one is auto scaling. So you have a different server, but how exactly organization manage their incoming traffics, how they can distribute the traffic, that we'll understand in the elastic load balancer. And auto scaling, it means what? Obviously, now you can see there are a lot of streaming website, for an example, Netflix, or let's say a big billion day, or let's say Black Friday day. So in that specific day, the e-commerce website have number of hits, right? So they are as compared to the other, right, or the other day, they have a 100x load. So how exactly they can manage without purchasing a new hardware. So that's the auto scaling I'm going to explain in the monitoring and scaling. And after that, obviously now everyone is using AI and other things. So automation is very, very important. So till now you understand everything how exactly we can configure manually. But let's suppose if I want to learn about a one-click deployment, then you also need to understand the what exactly the automation. So in automation, we'll understand about what exactly the cloud formations, okay, what exactly the infrastructure management, how exactly you can manage the tools. So in automation, I'll explain you about within a one-click deployment, how exactly you can create your virtualization, your storage, your networking, and the load balancer and the auto scaling. So that we are going to explain in the automation part. And after that, once we complete this automation part, I'll also explain you about a new things, that's the container. Obviously, you have a different package of your applications, and sometimes what happens, some packager is not supported to the A environment or B environment. So this is a completely the friendly environment where we can create a different container. For an example, we also understand about elastic container service, we also understand about elastic container repository, and we also explain you about what exactly the elastic Kubernetes services. So you might heard about this Kubernetes service in the in earlier as well. So what exactly it is, why exactly required? So that also I'm going to explain in this container. And then here again, I'll come to the networking two part, where I'll explain you about how exactly you can connect your AWS to your on-premises network. That's the hybrid networking. Let's say you have some on-premises network, or let's say you want to create a networking between the AWS to AWS. So that also I'm going to explain in the networking part too. So this is an very technical, and also it is very I can say it's in fun to learn that AWS is directly communicating to your on-premises environment. So that also I'm going to explain in networking too. And after that, serverless. Right. So when we talk about serverless, it means without server. So for example, if I ask you that, okay, I want to run some Java code, and to run that Java code, you need a compute. You also need the some application. But here, what happened? AWS provide a serverless service, like for an example, Lambda, where you can directly deploy your code using these services. So there are some AWS services which don't require any server, that is completely managed by the AWS. And here we just need to provide some input and we will get the output. So that's the serverless. We'll explain about what exactly the Lambda is, how exactly we can create messaging services like in simple notification services, simple query services as well. And once I complete the serverless part, I'll also explain you about the edge services. Now, till now, we understand many services, but we haven't talked about any DNS services. So the next service that's called the Route 53 is a DNS services, where you, Alex, also explain you how exactly you can create a website and how exactly you can manage those websites. Right. So completely control panel we got from the AWS, that's in Route 53, and we can purchase a domain, we can manage the domain. So whatever the instance that we are going to launch, for example, some web server, application server, so how exactly we can divert all those query to our domain. So that I'm going to explain in Edge services. So in Edge services, I'm going to cover about some part of security. For example, how exactly you can prevent the DOS attack and DDoS attack. What about the firewalls? That's the web application firewall, right? And some other firewall manager I'm also going to explain. I'll also cover some basic security services which you required, okay, while you are going for the cloud engineer or the solution architect. That's about the vulnerability manager, then policy compliances, and also I'm also going to explain about how exactly you can manage the threats in AWS, because it's not like that you are using the cloud product, so every responsibility is an AWS responsibility. So I'll also explain you about what exactly the AWS shared responsibility model. So that's the 12. And after that, no, I'll also explaining about the developing on AWS. So this is about the DevOps. So how exactly you can create a different developing life cycles, how exactly you can get started with AWS, how exactly you can use SDK, software development kit, and how exactly you can use a CDK as well, which is a part of the AWS. And after the DevOps, it means what? It's a completely CI/CD. That's continuous integration and continuous deployment. So AWS provide a different tool which you help for your CI/CD pipeline. For example, code commit, code build. These are the different tools which also I'm going to explain in automation while CI/CD pipeline. And after that, I'll also explain about, although it is on the cloud, but still we also need to create some backups. DR, that's on DR strategies. So I'll also explain those strategies, okay, in the last part, where I'm going to explain you about how exactly you can plan for the DR, what exactly the blue-green deployment, just an example. So that also I'm going to explain. And after this, apart from these syllables, we will also provide you some projects as well. So there are 2, 3 projects which I'm also giving you. And while learning, I'll also explain you everything as in practically online. So we create an account. We'll also perform many practicals. So as I said that it's only 10% of PPT and 90% of practical oriented sessions. And last session, I'll also explain you about how exactly you can clear the different certifications, what exactly the next plan, or how you can improve your knowledge. So that also I'm going to explain in this. So these are the syllabus, okay, of our AWS. Okay, so this is the syllabus. So now over to you, Sudish. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maya. I just have a small question for you, and thank you so much for the wonderful presentation and taking us through us. I know that you took a lot of time to understand the market in US and Canada, and took a lot of time to come up with this curriculum, right? So thank you so much, and I appreciate your time. Can you give us some light on um, prerequisites? Who
Okay,
can move into AWS Cloud Engineering career, and what are the prerequisites?
okay. So as I said that it's a product, right? We are
Okay.
into the product training. If I ask you that, okay, so are you using the Instagram, right? So on the
Yeah.
day one, you don't know how you can create a reel. But now,
Right.
if I ask you to upload some photos, you can immediately go and find that photo and you can upload it. How?
Yeah.
Because you spend the time on the Instagram. So AWS is
Learning.
what you cannot buy the time. You need to spend the time here because it's in
Okay.
product. There is a no prerequisites specifically for the the cloud engineer. Then for the cloud solution architect, even though once you clear the architecture, you can also be a FinOps guy as well, financial operation who manage the cost. So to join this course, you don't require anything. As I say that if you are completely blank about the cloud, or even though you don't know what exactly the cloud, we will explain everything from the scratch. So for this,
Thank,
there is a no coding requirement, and also there is a no prerequisites as well. Only thing is that you need to spend the time on this product.
thank you. Thank you, Amir. You just answered my follow-up question to whether it is some coding involved in it. Okay,
Exactly.
because a lot of our guys who are coming for the first time in IT, we want to give them the opportunities where they can still go into careers but not required to go into the coding side of the business, right? So thank you so
Exactly.
much. And now,
So if I if you
yeah.
you said that there are a lot of guys who do hate the coding, I'm also one of them. So even though I don't like the coding and as well, I even though I never learn about C hashes and all, still I'm in a surviving in this era. So no
Yeah.
coding is a requirement at all.
Yeah, yeah. There's usually people who come from non-tech for the first time. They usually have a perception. They think that, oh, you know what, I think to move into IT, I need to have a coding skill, or maybe at some point I have to do some coding. But it's not as such like that. There are
Yes.
so many roles and everything in
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
role.
There are
So
many roles,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And people nowadays they are also going AI, right? So I
right,
told them that see there is a one understanding and there is a interest. If you have an interest in a AI but you don't have an understanding in the AI, then there is no use in the there in the market there are a lot of jobs. It's not about that you will have to learn the coding or the AI. So for an
yeah.
example, I don't know what is the coding. Still I'm server and I can going great, and till now I'm, I know I just said I'm doing work on the AWS. That's my daily role, securities. And even though I completed more than 100 plus batches, so I never feel that okay I required the coding because that's not my cup of tea.
Thanks for sharing expert. That's very encouraging. Okay, and I'm just going to share my screen over here, and I'm going to talk about our last topic for the day, and then with that we can close. So, guys, Mr. Amir did an amazing job talking about what he's going to cover in this training. The opportunities which we see in our job market is if you finish this training, successfully with our support, you can move into roles like AWS Cloud Engineer, Cloud Solution Architect, AWS DevOps Engineer, Site Reality, Reliability Engineer, sorry, Cloud Security Engineer, and Data Engineer. So it's a comprehensive training. People who come out of this training they move to different roles based on the interest. It's a completely mentorship-driven career. Okay, so we will guide you based on which area of the AWS cloud infrastructure you are interested in. We will guide you with certifications exactly with that. I do want to tell you quickly that our career opportunities are there, but then you got to understand there are opportunities like, we have to phase it out. There are 4 phases towards it. One is the first phase is you will complete the AWS cloud platform training with certification prep. And phase 2 is the AWS training, and you have to complete the certifications, and it's very important. Without certifications, we cannot go forward. And phase 3 is the pre-marketing phase, where we're talking about getting your resume and LinkedIn ready. We give you the live interview questions, which are done through alumni right now. And the last phase is marketing. So we will help you get into the job market, both in US and Canada, both for junior and intermediate level. Intermediate level is based on your tech experience in the past. But if you don't have tech experience, then you're looking to move into junior roles. And so we're going to conduct a webinar very shortly. We just wanted to share, we want to just share, just give me a minute. I'm just going to yeah. So give me a second here. Just going to share the screen here. So Ameya, so I just want to say that we're going to invite people for a quick webinar in the next few days where people can come in and ask a few questions. But you know what? Thank you so much for your time and coming together today and sharing your expertise. And at the next session, we're going to invite a lot of people, and they're going to ask interesting questions, because with clarity comes confidence and motivation.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to give
Correct.
you. Okay.
Sure.
And so we're going to end this session, guys. And thank you so much for listening through this video. And thank you, Maya. You have a great evening.
Thank you, Sudesh. Bye-bye. Have a great day.